$850,000. That's a realistic number for opening a mid-sized sports bar in an American city before a single beer gets poured, before one customer walks through the door. Most people think this business is simple. Buy some TVs, get a liquor license, throw up some jerseys on the wall, and let football Sundays do the rest. That's the version people see from a bar stool on the one night a year it's packed wall to wall. But the version that actually runs behind that bar is a completely different business, one built on razor-thin margins, brutal fixed costs, and timing that has to be almost perfect. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what separates a sports bar that clears six figures a year from one that closes within 18 months, including the exact dollar amount a single bad month can cost an owner. This is Owned Economics, and we're breaking down what it actually costs to own a sports bar in America. The reality check. From the outside, a sports bar looks like pure profit. It's packed on Sunday afternoons, loud during March Madness, and the bar top is covered in half-finished pitchers of beer. People assume that energy equals cash flow because a full room and a loud room look the same as a profitable room. They're not always the same thing. Here's what people don't see. A sports bar is really two businesses stacked on top of each other. It's a restaurant with all the labor costs and food waste that come with a kitchen, and it's a bar with liquor licensing, insurance, and liability exposure that a regular restaurant doesn't have to deal with. Run both halves well, and you've got a strong local business that can outlast almost anything else on the block. Run either one poorly, and it drags the whole thing under with it. There's also a piece almost nobody accounts for going in: seasonality. Football season and March Madness might carry a sports bar for 4 or 5 months. What happens the other 7? That's the part most people never see coming, and it's exactly where a lot of first-time owners run into trouble. Not because the business is bad, but because they built their budget around the best month instead of the average one. But here's what the numbers actually look like. Chapter 1. Startup Costs. Opening a sports bar isn't one big check, it's a stack of them, and they add up fast. Real estate and build-out. Leasing a 3,000 to 5,000 square foot space in a decent commercial area typically runs $4,000 to $12,000 a month, depending on the city. But the real number to worry about is build-out, turning that empty shell into a working bar. Electrical work for a dozen TVs, plumbing for a full bar setup, kitchen ventilation, ADA-compliant restrooms, that's commonly $150,000 to $400,000, depending on the condition of the space. A second-generation space, meaning one that already used to be a restaurant or bar, can cut that number by nearly half, since the grease traps, hood systems, and plumbing are usually already in place. That single decision, new build versus second-generation lease, is often the biggest lever a first-time owner has over their entire startup budget. Equipment. A commercial kitchen setup, fryers, grills, walk-in cooler, ventilation hoods lands between $80,000 and $150,000. Then there's the bar itself, draft systems, back bar coolers, ice machines, POS terminals. Budget another $40,000 to $70,000 there. Furniture and interior finish, bar stools, high tops, booth seating, flooring that can survive spilled beer every night for a decade adds another $30,000 to $50,000 on top of that. The TVs, everyone assumes are free. A serious sports bar runs 15 to 30 screens, including at least one large format display. Commercial-grade televisions, mounting, and a proper distribution system for satellite or streaming sports packages can run $30,000 to $60,000 total. That's before the monthly sports package fees, which we'll get to. Licensing. This is where a lot of first-timers get caught off guard. A full liquor license, depending on the state, can range from $5,000 in a less restrictive state to well over $300,000 in a market where licenses are capped and traded almost like real estate, such as parts of New York or California. That's not a typo. In some cities, the license alone can cost more than the entire build-out. This one number varies more than almost anything else in this video, so anyone serious about this needs to check their specific state and county before assuming either extreme. Initial inventory and working capital. First liquor and food order, small wares, furniture, signage. Figure another $40,000 to $60,000, plus 3 to 6 months of operating cash held in reserve, because almost no new bar breaks even in month 1, and the ones that go under early are almost always the ones that skipped this reserve. Add it up, and a modest sports bar in a mid-sized city, especially one working with a second-generation space, can open for around $500,000. A larger operation in a major metro, especially one in a capped liquor license state, can push past $1.2 million. That $850,000 figure from the top of the video sits right in the realistic middle for most owners.
Chapter 2. Revenue Streams. Here's the part that surprises people. Alcohol usually isn't even the biggest line item. It's the most profitable one, but not the biggest. Food sales. Typically 45% to 55% of total revenue. Wings, burgers, appetizers, high-margin, high-volume items that keep tables turning during the slow hours between games closed. Food is also what keeps a sports bar alive on a random Tuesday in October when there's no marquee game on any screen. Alcohol sales. Usually 35 to 45% of revenue, but it carries the best margins in the building. A beer that costs the bar 75 cents to pour can sell for $6 to $8. A well drink costing under $1 in ingredients can sell for $8 to $10. This is where the real profit lives, and it's why smart owners spend real time training bartenders on upselling a premium pour instead of just pulling the tap handle closest to them. Event and reservation revenue. Private parties for fantasy football drafts, corporate watch parties, birthday buyouts, these bring in flat fees of $500 to $3,000 per event, often on nights that would otherwise be slow. A Tuesday night corporate buyout can outperform a normal Tuesday by 4 or 5 times over. Betting and screen-related add-ons. In states with legal sports betting, some bars partner with licensed sports books for promotional arrangements or install self-service kiosks, adding another modest but growing revenue stream. This is still a small piece of the pie for most bars, but it's grown noticeably over the last few years as more states have legalized it. That's before you even factor in merchandising and off-hour revenue, logo hats, koozies, gift cards during the holidays, and increasingly delivery and takeout orders through third-party apps during weeknight dinner hours. None of these are individually huge, but stacked together, they can add another 5% to 8% on top of core sales. Remember that swing we mentioned earlier, the one between a good week and a bad one? This is where it starts showing up. All of these streams sound solid on paper, but a sports bar's revenue isn't steady. It's lumpy, tied directly to game schedules. A slow Tuesday in July can bring in $1,500. A packed Sunday during the playoffs can bring in $15,000. That swing is exactly why the next chapter matters so much.
Operating costs. This is where a sports bar quietly eats its own profit if the owner isn't paying attention. Labor. Typically the single largest ongoing cost, usually 28% to 35% of revenue. A sports bar needs bartenders, servers, cooks, dishwashers, and security on busy nights. A mid-sized location might run a payroll of $35,000 to $60,000 a month once you include payroll taxes and workers' comp. Scheduling is its own skill here. Staff too heavy for a slow Tuesday, and labor eats the whole day's profit before the doors even open. Cost of goods sold. Food costs generally run 28% to 33% of food revenue. Liquor costs run lower, usually 18% to 24% of alcohol revenue, which is exactly why bars lean on drink sales to keep overall margins healthy. Rent and utilities. Combined, these usually land at 8% to 12% of revenue. A large kitchen, dozens of TVs, and HVAC running to keep a packed room comfortable adds up. Utility bills alone can hit $3,000 to $6,000 a month in peak season. Sports packages. People almost never think about this one. Commercial accounts for major sports subscriptions and regional sports networks can run $15,000 to $20,000 a year combined, based on the venue's capacity. That's a $20,000 line item hiding in plain sight that most first-time owners underestimate by half. Insurance and licensing renewals. Liquor liability insurance, general liability, and property insurance together often run $15,000 to $30,000 a year for a full-service bar, given the added risk of alcohol service.
Marketing, repairs, and small equipment replacement usually add another $20,000 to $35,000 on top of that, and it's the line item most owners forget to budget for until the ice machine breaks in July. Would you still want in after hearing all that stacked up? Here's the honest answer. Most successful owners say yes, because once you know where the money actually goes, you can build the business to protect against it instead of getting blindsided by it.
Chapter 4: Profit Margins and Real Numbers. Here's where it all comes together. The restaurant and bar industry as a whole runs on thin margins, typically 3% to 9% net profit for full-service restaurants. Sports bars, because of their higher alcohol mix, tend to sit on the better end of that range, often landing between 6% and 12% in a well-run location. Let's put real numbers on it. Say a sports bar pulls in $1.8 million in annual revenue, a realistic figure for a solid, established location doing steady business through both peak and off-peak seasons. Cost of goods, food and liquor combined, roughly $540,000. Labor, roughly $576,000. Rent and utilities, roughly $198,000. Insurance, licensing, sports packages, marketing, and miscellaneous, roughly $180,000. That leaves around $306,000 before debt service, taxes, and owner draw, a gross operating margin of about 17%. After loan payments on that initial build-out and equipment, along with taxes, many owners land closer to a 6 to 9% net margin, or roughly $110,000 to $160,000 a year in actual take-home profit. To put that in perspective, that's close to what a car loan and a mortgage payment combined might run for a mid-sized family, except it's flowing the other way, into the owner's pocket, month after month if the business is dialed in correctly. Break-even usually takes longer than people expect, too. Most new sports bars don't turn a real profit in year one. Between the build-out loan payments, the learning curve on staffing,
And the time it takes for a new location to build a regular crowd, year 2 is often the first year an owner sees the margins we just walked through. That's not a red flag, it's just the normal timeline. And the owners who plan their cash reserves around an 18 to 24-month runway instead of a 6-month one are the ones who make it to the other side of that curve. Now, break that annual number down into actual months, because this is where a lot of owners get surprised, even after year 1 goes well. A strong month during football season, especially one with a deep playoff run, can bring in $200,000 or more in revenue. A dead month in July or August with no marquee sports on the calendar might bring in half that. And remember that earlier number. A bad month, especially in the off-season, can swing an owner's cash position by $15,000 to $25,000 in a single stretch compared to what they budgeted for. That's the real risk. Not that the business can't be profitable, but that the profit isn't evenly spread across the calendar. And the owners who get caught off guard are almost always the ones who spend a great October like it was going to repeat every month of the year.
Chapter 5: Risks and what makes someone succeed or fail. Every business has a failure point, and sports bars have a few specific ones worth naming plainly. Seasonality gaps. Summer months without football or March Madness can see revenue drop 30 to 40% compared to peak season. Owners who don't plan cash reserves for this get squeezed hard by August. The ones who succeed build a summer strategy early. Trivia nights, live music, patio seating, and non-sports events that keep the room full when the usual programming isn't doing the heavy lifting for them. Liquor liability. A single incident tied to overserving a patron can result in lawsuits that liability insurance may not fully cover if proper protocols weren't followed. This is exactly why serious owners invest in staff training and responsible service certification early. It's a $500 class that protects a $500,000 investment. Thin staffing margins. Turnover in bar and restaurant staff runs high industry-wide, sometimes over 70% annually. The bars that hold on to good staff tend to pay slightly above market rate and build a real culture, and it shows up directly in lower training costs and better customer experience, which customers absolutely notice, even if they can't name why they keep coming back. Overbuilding on TVs and tech. Some new owners overspend on screens and streaming packages before proving out their food and drink program, which is the part that actually pays the bills day to day.
The owners who succeed treat sports content as the draw that gets people through the door, not the entire business model that keeps them coming back. Location and competition risk. Opening 2 blocks from an established sports bar with a 10-year head start is a much harder climb than opening in a growing neighborhood with no real competitor yet. The owners who do the homework on foot traffic, parking, and nearby competitors before signing a lease save themselves years of uphill work. What separates the sports bars that make it from the ones that don't usually comes down to 3 things: enough cash reserve to survive the slow months, tight control over labor and food cost percentages from day one, and a genuine plan for the off-season instead of hoping football comes back around fast enough to bail out a rough summer.
Everything in this video is general business education, based on industry averages and publicly available cost data. It's not direct financial, legal, or investment advice for your specific situation. Costs vary significantly by state, city, and lease terms, and anyone seriously considering this path should work with a local accountant, attorney, and commercial real estate broker before signing anything. So here's the real question. Knowing what it actually costs, the $850,000 in, the seasonal swings, the 6 to 9% margin on a good year, would you still take this over a stable 9-to-5 job? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me why. I read every one. If you want the next breakdown, maybe a different local business people think they understand but don't, subscribe to Owned Economics 2, and I'll see you in the next one.